Thank you for coming and welcome. I'm Lexi, and this is Wake Up Calls. And this is our first sadhana practice with Wake Up Calls. So, sadhana is an appropriated term from yogic practice and from Sanskrit, and basically means practice. The goal of sadhana once a month here is for people to personalize their meditation practice. Um, to work with whatever little bumps happen along the way and find a way to kind of keep going deeper and keep going deeper. um, Practice is called practice because there's not an end point. There's not a here I am, like growing up, right? Like there's not a threshold to cross. There's just this process. And practices should change and evolve as you do. And so, Wake Up Calls is just a tool for having a regular and consistent place to come to and a regular voice to lean into. And every month we have a topic. And so this month, the phrase that we're working with and the practices that are built around this phrase are is finding neutral. So finding neutral is a non doing state of being. And from neutral, we can move in any direction. We're often not in neutral, and we're often in an active state of waiting for the next thing, or being in one thing and preparing for the next, which affects our nervous system. So the purpose and the point of practice is to just find rest in your system so that the deeper you and the deeper movements of your life can find traction. And the small things that pull us in all the directions get less traction, and that deep movement, that deep well of you can rise, and you can be guided closer and closer and deeper into the call of your life. So right here, let's start with the most important practice that comes with sadhana, with anything that I teach, which is breath. So just finding and linking yourself to your own breath. One of the tiny habits that we work with often, and that I hope you find ways to incorporate into your lives, is just filling with air. So inhaling and noticing that you get to a certain place where you're full of air. And right at the top, right where you're full, there's a pause. You are neither inhaling nor exhaling. And that is an example of neutral. And even though it's not a second long, recognizing it trains your nervous system on the neutrality that you seek. And it happens twice in every full breath cycle, at the top and at the bottom of the exhale where we're empty. And there's again that neutral pause before we begin to inhale again. And that is also neutral. So simply inhaling, noticing neutral at the top of the breath, and exhaling and noticing neutral at the bottom of the breath. So for this hour, the invitation is to just do this. And here's the thing, your mind will wander. Expect this. And then just return to the inhale and the exhale. And so instead of, oh no, I'm doing this wrong, we just come to that very simple, oh, I was supposed to do this. Back I come. Where was I? Back to the breath. And while you are here, simply breathing and simply bringing yourself when you stray, probably you're noticing how multi-layered your thinking is, how many places your brain is capable of going all at the same time. But you're not attending to that as much as you are attending to this simple in and out of breath with neutral at the top and neutral again at the bottom. And maybe under the layers of thoughts, ideas, pushes and pulls, maybe with this breath well held and tracked inside yourself, maybe you can also notice the still point of your heart, the steady, steady space of the heart. Now, there may be layers of other sensations, ideas, movements on top of that, but underneath, as we slow down, as we link to our breath and our bellies, sometimes that still heart space is easier to track. This is another neutral place. And another place that when we wander, we just return to. For some of us, intentionally touching our bodies, for example, putting our hand on our heart or our belly, helps steady us and remind us where we are. Just breathing. Just letting all the other things just wait for now. Because the most important thing is right here with yourself and your breath. And just returning. If you have your palms up, which is a common posture for breathing, for meditating, see what happens when you just flip your palms over. Just rest them on your knees or your body, wherever they are, easily landed. And just see what you notice with that. If your palms were down, maybe flip them up. I am not a subscriber to the do not move a muscle for an hour kind of meditation at all. And think of this as a laboratory for myself, a place where understanding how my energy moves, how my mind works, is part of what happens. It's not just some zone of emptiness. So for some of us, when our palms are up, we have put ourselves, or for all of us, when our palms are up, we're in a receptive state. It's one of those things where I actually think maybe we've grown out of palms up because we live in a time where there's just so much information all the time. We're taking in so much all the time. Palms down just gives us a break, closes our circuit so it's just us. Shifting the signal to you, feeling the circle and cycle of your breath. Sometimes in meditation we get quiet. Sometimes being still allows more still to rise. But this other thing also happens in stillness, in meditation, which can be that your mind opens up and a lot starts to happen that I would put into the category of creativity, ideas, possibilities, potentialities. And this is so fun and exciting when it happens. And honestly, for me, sometimes I leap out of closed eye and steady breath and I jot things down, which is just so anti meditation. And sometimes I know that it'll wait and I keep myself here. But I guess I'm trying to say that there really isn't a right way to do this, or more importantly, a wrong way to do this. And if what rises through breathing and carving out a little bit of time for yourself is joy and enthusiasm for life, what a gift that is. And sometimes to get to that joy and enthusiasm for life, we have to sit through a few or many times of agitation. Given everything we know about the power of silence and stillness and breath, the fact that we're not all enlightened beings is actually testimony to how difficult practice actually is. Back when you stray, finding the still under the layers, attending more to neutral and still than all the everythings. In case you do not know this wonderful geeky fact, to receive the profound benefits of meditation, 18 minutes a day, 5 days a week is the magic number. And so you know, a minute here and a minute there, 5 here and 10 there, totally counts. So finding some way to give yourself 18 minutes still and quiet with yourself and your breath. However you can piece that together, it will change your brain in significant ways. Mostly empowering you to be more able to attend to what you want to attend to, and freer from the things that take you away from yourself and from the present moment, this one and this one. Continuing with that breath, continuing to locate neutral at the top of the breath. And exhaling and finding neutral at the bottom of the breath. And then if it's available, finding the still point of the heart. So I'm going to lead us through the core meditation. And we'll just hold a little bit of quiet there. And we can shift ourselves into questions, into inquiry, into anything that you're called to ask about practice, about your own practice, about obstacles, about experiences that you're having that might need some attention or support. So we've already linked ourselves to our breath and recognize that as we fully inhale and exhale, our breath and our bellies are linked. From there, we find our bones. Our bones being the structure around which the rest of us is wrapped. Our bones being the portal to our deeper wisdom and knowing. The wisdom and knowing that we don't argue with. Breath and belly and bones. Finding gravity, feeling the gentle downward force at work on you right now. And all the time, the downward force that holds you here, reminds you where you are. Here. And here. Breath and belly, bones and gravity. Finding your way up to your heart, the one beating away steadily in your body. Taking some moments to feel the size and the shape and the weight of your own heart. Now feeling the energy heart, the heart that's linked forward and backward through time. The heart that's linked to people and places, things and ideas. Cords to known and unknown places in this web of livingness. Smoothing out the cords, that the exchange of love is smooth and clear. Is part of what we practice here. Breath and belly, bones, gravity, the system of the heart. Stay here in this body, in this breath, recognizing gravity and linked to bones and heart. Bones and heart are linked to each other in a constant conversation, building you blood and distributing it. From here, feel where you end. And maybe that's the edge of your skin, and maybe that's the edge of where you extend to. But either way, just on the other side of that ending of you, begins space. That vast and boundless surround, ever expanding. And it is also what we are made of. Feeling how space is everything else. And space is us too. And breathing and finding and feeling the ways in which you are connected in all directions to all things. And we're continuing with our breath. We've found a steadiness. For some of us, coming out of meditation is very quick, very easy. We come right back and here we are. And for others, it can be a slow or difficult return. It can take minutes. And it can change time to time to time, but returning back to the world you want to do gently, returning back to attention outside of yourself as well as hopefully inside of yourself. So no rushing. And if really what is most needed for you is to stay right here where you are in your breath and instill and do that. And if you have a question, if you have a struggle, if you have a wondering about something that comes up for you in meditation, let's go there. Let's talk about that. Chances are really good that what you struggle with, we all struggle with. And if you don't have a question, I will say a little bit more about practice. My definition of practice is really any action with consciousness applied, with attention applied. I don't want consciousness to get all woo-woo here. Attention. Precise attention. So if we're walking, we're walking. But if we're walking and holding that this is practice time, being with our breath, staying with ourselves, then something else happens for us. You can be playing basketball and make that a practice by how you attend to it. Right? In Zen Buddhism, they talk about dishwashing, right? Or chopping wood, carrying water, the small things. Has anybody ever washed a whole load of dishes and not even known they did it? You know, that's the opposite of practice. But feeling every swirl of the sponge and the water and placing that in the drying rack and doing the next one. It's bringing your mind, your attention, and your actions together. And I think some of you know that I, by a teacher, was kicked out of a meditation chair for a while. Because really, what my system needed was not to be still, but to be in motion. And so, for a while, my practices were dance, my practices were hill hikes, my practices were other things where my body and my mind could yoke together, right? Which is yoga, but where through motion, my mind could empty and still. And that's super valid and important that we know that sitting still and having an empty head is actually just one possible way to practice. Good to see you all. Bless your hearts, bless your weeks. Be well.
Thank you. Thank you, Lexi.